Cool. Morning.
Well, good morning, Joe. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. Do you enjoy, I was thinking of this as you were preaching, do you enjoy doing one-off sermons that aren't attached to a series, which is kind of what today was? Maybe,
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, it totally was.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Do you enjoy that more than a series, or do you like something better about each one?
That's yeah, great. My desire is to do just series work and even just stay in a book, not even like build a series like 4 or 5 weeks, but actually just start a book, chapter 1, verse 1, and work my way all the way through that. Because I feel like I know what's coming next. I don't have to think about this is going to say, all right, I'll be very clear and transparent here. I don't even have to pray about where I'm going to be next. I'm just going to the next thing. I think God's in that. He can work in that as well. The difficult work is actually seeking God, praying about it. What do you want to talk about? What do we as your church, Little C Church Renaissance, need to hear from you? And let's lean into that a little bit. So it's harder to do the one-offs, for sure.
I could see that, definitely. It was a great message. The 2 different roads you could be on. The road to Emmaus from Luke 24, road to Damascus from Acts 9, and giving us the difference between how all of us can be on a road of doubt and unbelief or a road of opposition to God.
Rebellion.
Yeah. And so for the disciples in Luke 24 and then Paul or Saul in Acts 9, they were on those roads just one time, or that we hear the story of. But we can find ourselves on those roads multiple times.
Yeah, that's one of those parts of the Bible that really plays well into our own lives, because we've all been in that place where I thought Jesus was going to fix this. Joe, I really thought if I became a Christian, if I went to church, if I followed him, if I did that my marriage would fix, or my job would come back, or my house wouldn't foreclose. And sometimes he isn't the fix that we expect him to be.
I couldn't help but shake the question, how do I deal with disappointment when you were in Luke 24?
Well, let's just ask your mom.
After she gave birth to my brother. How did she deal with that? How did that happen?
No, yeah, okay, so, all right, I don't want to make light of that. How does a follower of Jesus deal with disappointment?
Because we don't fix our disappointment always by having the thing that we wanted.
Right.
So we have to lean on Jesus.
We do, and I think over time, we begin to understand, maybe this has happened in your life. I know it's happened in mine. But had I gotten the thing that I was so convinced I needed and desperately had to have, had I gotten that, my life would not have been as good as it is now. As smart as God is, someone said this once, I don't know who it was, you'll know. But if you knew everything about you like God does, you would say no to some of your prayers too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? You wouldn't give you the things that you desire sometimes too, because he knows what it will do to you.
Well, in Luke 24, the thing that those disciples wanted was for Jesus to actually have lived and not have died. And how awful would that be for all of us had their hopes been fulfilled? Wow. If Jesus had given Peter what he wanted when Peter said, no, you'll not be arrested, you'll not be killed, I'll die for you. And Jesus instead says, get behind me, Satan.
Yeah. Is there a sacrifice? Like Peter could never be the sacrifice for us that Jesus was going to be.
Yeah. I can never do it myself if I get the things that I always wanted.
Wow,
it's never good enough.
Yeah. Yeah. So we lean in on disappointment. I think owning it is fine. I used to be a person, and maybe still am to some extent, where I will just go, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. I'll just kind of gloss it over. I stiffen my upper lip, and I'll just put resolve on and make it happen. It'll be fine. Whatever. It's not a disappointment. It's just a roadblock. We'll get around it. It'll be whatever. Maybe it's best to actually lean into those moments where you're disappointed and let God talk to you about that. Yeah. So what is really behind the disappointment? Why are you so sad? Why was there too much maybe attached to that thing that you're not? I don't know. That's real good for me right now.
Yeah, let Jesus show up on the road.
Yeah.
surprise us
Surprise.
and then disappear when.
Almost to
did the-
say, I'll see you on the next road. I don't know if that's true or not. We don't read anywhere else where these two followers of Jesus met him again. We don't know. But almost to say, right when you need him, he's there.
Yeah.
He disappears and he'll be right back when you need him again. I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a great point. Moving on to the road to Damascus for Saul, who, because of this moment, we eventually start calling him Paul. He becomes the greatest missionary leader in the history of the church,
Wow,
or at least for that first century.
No question.
Very crucial to the growth of the church in its infancy and the sustaining of it through doctrine. Well, our theology comes from this man who
so true.
was in opposition to God, and God stopped him. And it's an interesting thing because Jesus stops him on the road. And what else do you expect but for him to surrender? Jesus always wins. Like we can't. I heard somebody say one time, he's $1 billion and 0. He's like the Tom Brady of.
Well done, Joe.
Yeah. But really, though, he doesn't lose. And so, just thinking of my own life, how easy it is to oppose him when I think he might be speaking to me and it goes against what I want, and how easy it is to fight against that, knowing that if we just surrender, what great things he can do.
Yeah.
Oh, has God ever had to force you into obedience?
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about that. Is that what was happening in Acts 9 when Jesus comes to Saul and blinds him?
Knocks him off his horse and
knocks him to the ground
Yeah.
and says, "You're not going into Damascus to do what you thought you were going to do, and I'm going to take your sight from you." Now he doesn't say those words, but that's what's happening, right?
Yeah.
He is forcing
his will.
Saul. He's forcing his will on Saul
Yeah.
in that regard. Wow, that's real good.
Yeah.
Don't the strongest rebellious hearts need that sometimes too?
Wow.
I need it.
I need it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe sometimes that's why we get the disappointment that comes, is because this is God opposing us as we're in opposition to him. Maybe the thing I wanted all along was in opposition to God.
Yeah.
And he comes along and says, pow, pow, pow.
Yeah, gosh, wouldn't you want to know if the very thing you're devoting your life to or chasing after or making primary in your life, wouldn't you want to know if it's in opposition to God?
Yeah.
I mean, and that's, so even this thing, it's what a cruel God to knock him down, take his sight from him, make him panic for 3 days. Joe, do you think you have a little panic if you lost your sight for 3 days?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'd lose my freaking mind
Yeah.
is what would happen.
Yep.
But how cruel of God to do that. You know, when we think, but it's not. It's so gracious.
Yeah.
Like if I leave your sight, you'll harm people and you'll have more regret because you're going to become a Christian. You're going to follow me soon. One day soon.
Yeah.
And I'm going to stop you now before you have any more regret.
Yeah. And it's interesting because Saul gets his sight back.
Yep.
After Ananias comes and prays for him. But in one of his letters that he writes to the Church of Galatians, he kind of alludes, he doesn't say it blatantly, but he alludes to this idea that he has for years had consistent problems with his sight.
Oh my God. Are you blaming Jesus?
Maybe. So,
Maybe, yeah.
You know, I don't know. I'm just...
Okay, I don't want to throw the word
Just
blame
conjecture.
on there. This is, okay, Joe, this is great. This is brand new to me. I don't know this at all. But finish your thing.
Well, just the thought that, going back to the Old Testament,
I know where
there's
you're going.
A man named Jacob who
I knew it.
gets in a wrestling match with an angel all
Yes.
night long, and this angel touches his thigh, and he puts it out of joint, and he walks with a limp for the rest of his life.
Yes, almost like a reminder that he had an encounter with God. And so is this poor eyesight that maybe plagues Paul for the rest of his life just a reminder, I met you on a road, changed your life, don't forget.
Yeah,
I don't know.
and though you may not see naturally like you once could, you see spiritually so much more than you ever would have had I not blinded you on the road. And the same for Jacob, who becomes Israel, who becomes the father of the 12 sons who their progeny become the 12 tribes of Israel.
Yeah, form a nation.
Yeah, though you may not walk the way you once did before, now because of what I've done in you, the rest of the world will be benefited from the journey you'll be on from this moment. So, I don't know, maybe those moments of disappointment and opposition from God to us are, even though the effects may remain, like there's residual damage maybe, and we experience that throughout, and we may not always feel 100% better about it. What a really cool picture that God still uses even that.
Yeah. Oh, so good. Yeah. I tell you, he does not want automatons, like robots, just to, like he has a life for us to live. And we will ebb and flow, push and pull, do right and do wrong. And he is there the whole time, pulling us back into right standing, what I'm trying to say, but he pulls us back into the right way, always, because of his great love for us.
And somehow makes the mess that we've gone through worth it. And gives purpose and meaning to it.
Wow.
Not wasting a thing.
Yeah. I'm trying to think in my mind of something that would be a great example in my own life that plays out like this. Do you have something maybe at the top of your mind where you like have gone through something? Maybe there's countless of them. I just can't think of one right now for us.
I know that's been an experience before where it's like, wow, I wish that wouldn't have happened, but if it hadn't, there are so many other things that wouldn't have happened, that without those things, I wouldn't be the person I am.
And it's not like God caused those things, because there are hard things for us and even bad things for us. But God uses them to still lead us to a place of blessing.
Even our own sin. As Saul is on his way to murder Christians.
Yes, which is a sin, one of the top 10, right? Right, so here's a guy with permission from the high priest to kill people.
To break one of the 10 commandments.
That they're,
And God uses that journey to change the world, really.
Totally.
We wouldn't be sitting here if Saul had not had that experience. I'm convinced.
No question. Yeah, for sure.
Wow. This is challenging for me to think about.
Me too.
What are the ways that...
Which is why doing things like this, even though it's harder, I think the benefit for me and maybe the benefit for others is greater when we do this stuff. I'll finish with this little thing. My desire is to just help people see who Jesus is more and more. Like we've been talking through our core values, where Jesus is the metric of our standard of whether we're growing spiritually or not. So when we were doing Growing People Change, I talked about that. So he's the standard of whether we're growing, not Bible memorization, not church attendance, not giving records. Jesus is the standard. We look like him and we're growing spiritually, or we don't look like him, okay? The question then was, well, how do you know if you look like him? So all I want to do is just to teach people what Jesus is like. And we saw a little bit of that today. We saw a little bit of that.
Absolutely.
He has compassion for the hurting, love for those even in opposition to him, calls them by name. I mean, that's a real thing, When God uses your name to talk to you about your stuff, it'll get your attention. So
it sure will.
It's all good.
That's awesome. Well, thanks. It was a great message, and thanks for the extra work that it takes to do one like that.
Yeah, I loved it. It was
really
great.
good.
Thanks.
Thank you.